Welcome to the UTS Student Insight Series. We are delighted to present this new series during National Science Week and hope to inspire you towards a career in science and maths. I'm Gracie, and today I will take you through my journey in becoming an undergraduate student and would be happy to answer any questions you have at the end. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, upon whose ancestral lands our city campus now stands. I would also like to pay respects to elders both past and present and acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of knowledge for this land. I'm a final year Bachelor of Science student in the School of Life Sciences at UTS, with all of my subjects aligned to medical science. During my time at UTS, I secured an internship at one of the foremost inflammation laboratories in Australia, where I'll be returning to this December. My research project there was about drug compounds working together to kill mycobacteria that cause disease in humans. My research interests are centered around neglected tropical diseases and how they affect the central nervous system. And upon graduation, I plan to complete a PhD in this field. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during today's webinar, please type them into the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel, and we will do our best to answer them along the way. If you like a question someone else has asked and would like it answered, please use the upvoting tool, which is the little thumbs up next to the symbol, next to the question itself. Being an online event, do bear with us if there are any technical issues. We will work to resolve them quickly. And if you find that you were not able to access the talk at any point, please log out and log back in again, as that usually resolves the issue. Just letting you know that this session will be recorded, but we will not be recording any video or audio input from the audience. You may contact UTS at science.future@uts.edu.au if you have any concerns or questions. So I had an unconventional education. I left school at the end of year 9 to pursue ballet full time, and eventually moved to Germany before getting injured. During this, I completed high school through distance education. And then when I got injured, I came back to Sydney and completed years 11 and 12 in 3 terms at TAFE and got my ATAR. I initially went to the University of Sydney. However, due to a health issue, I was unsure I would have the marks to get into medicine, which is what I wanted to do at the time. So I took some time off during the lockdown of last year to focus on my health, and then started at UTS at the end of 2020. Even though I completed my HSC in an accelerated format at a vocational college, I was still able to do subjects that interested me at the time. These were Advanced English, Extension 1 English and Extension 2 English, Biology, Modern History, and General Mathematics. Whilst nowadays I wish I had done more science subjects like chemistry and physics in high school, having such a focus on English and history has definitely helped me in scientific communication, which I think is more relevant now more than ever. As I said, scientific communication has never been more important than it is right now. Manipulation of scientific fact can cause fear and panic among communities that do not have the resources or the capacity to understand the facts as they are presented by the media. A very topical of this is the paper, which I'm circling with my cursor right there, which was published by The Lancet in 1998. Here it was suggested that the MMR vaccine causes autism, which is something that first author Andrew Wakefield has become infamous for. This paper was eventually retracted, and he subsequently lost his medical license and any accreditation he had as an academic. However, this link between vaccines and autism is still a hot topic today, 23 years on. This in itself is indicative of how misinformation persists. Furthermore, as we saw in the initial uncertainty surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic, scientific communication can have large impacts on policy and political decision-making, which was evident especially in America this year. So science writing is not just about pages and pages of dense material. They could also be posters and infographics. Posters are a particularly effective way of communicating an overview of a study, such as a thesis, in a situation where it needs to be expressed concisely, for example, at a competition or a conference. They could be in the style of a popular science magazine. So magazines like the Scientific American and New Scientist are particularly good at communicating hard topics effectively. These may be aimed at a lay audience that don't have a strong understanding of the concepts that are being discussed, or to people that have some concept about science but are from a different field. For example, a biologist who's interested in reading about astronomy. And then, of course, there are the big scary ones. And whilst they may seem daunting, after some time you get used to reading these, and during your science education at university, you pick up new skills that make daunting information like this easier to read, understand, and write. For me personally, it was having a good idea of how statistics are presented and what they infer that made the biggest difference. And this is a core first-year subject at many universities for science students. So why did I choose a Bachelor of Science with a flexible major? So a flexible degree allowed me to choose subjects that fit my interests. It is especially useful for people who are really decided on a path and they know exactly what they want to do at university and, onto their career, or for people that may be a bit more unsure and would like to gain a really wide knowledge base and try different things before making a decision. Doing a flexible degree also allowed me to free up some of my elective units to do a research internship, where I learned new practical skills and made new connections that have improved my chances of securing an honours and postgrad position. Undertaking an internship or a placement whilst at university is immeasurably valuable, and probably one of the best things that I've done at university, and I would recommend everyone to do so. So as I said before, research in medical science has never been more important. Research in medical science is both extremely important and rewarding. University opens you up to ideas and concepts you may not have thought of before. So in your first year, as I said before, everyone in your specific faculty will do the same 8 subjects. Then you get to your second year subjects. And here you are able to choose subjects that are of more intermediate difficulty. You also have the option of undertaking an internship in your placement in your second and third years. The subjects that you do here will help you identify your interests and give you an idea as to whether you would like to pursue an honours or another higher research degree. And so in the blue bubble there are the subjects that I chose for my second year. Third year subjects. These give you more practical real life skills. They are the most advanced of the subjects that you will be doing. And as I previously mentioned, I'm interested in infectious diseases. More specifically, I'm interested in how the brain and nervous system can be implicated in infection. A flexible major has allowed me to choose directly related subjects such as parasitology, clinical bacteriology, and neuroscience so that I might understand these systems more. Furthermore, in these subjects, you will finesse and learn more skills which are applicable to a post-university career, of which the opportunities are endless. Where will a career in STEM take you? When people think of medical science, I think that most often they think that the majority of careers are becoming a doctor, a chemist, or a researcher. However, there is something out there for everyone. If you are interested in health and chemistry, you may develop life-saving pharmaceuticals. If you are fascinated in using technology and engineering within science, you may go on to print 3D heart valves. And as I said before, science communication is so important, and this skill may lead to opportunities within journalism and policy. With physics, the paths are endless. To name just a few, you may be a bio, astro, noise, light, particle physicist. I'll stop myself there, but as you can see, the opportunities in science are boundless. And as the world grows, the new information is constantly uncovered. And as such, the scope for new careers constantly evolves. Jobs that exist when you are at university may not have existed today. Finally, I just want to return quickly to the Bachelor of Science UTS. So this is some quick information about how the Bachelor is generally structured and the major options that may be available to you. However, this information evolves year by year. So generally, a Bachelor of Science is a 3-year full-time degree or 6 years part-time. And full-time means that you would take generally around 3 or 4 subjects a semester. And you have an option to choose a major which has a structured course progression, or you can tailor your degree to your interests, how I did. So as you can see there, the flexible major is the one at the top, and that's the one that I have done. However, there is, as you can see at the bottom, a straight medical science one, and these ones have course structures that have already been outlined and fit really nicely into each semester. So it provides a really like logical progression. And as I said before, these throughout science, you get lots of opportunities to potentially take placements or internships, and these really help you develop your practical skills within a research setting. It is important to note also, even if you do not immediately get into the course you had your heart set on, it does not mean that you should stop there. The university is always there to help you, and there are many people you can speak to in order to gain some more clarity as to what your options are. So that's it from me. If you have a question, please write it in the chat and I will endeavor to answer it as best as I can. Yeah, just type them into a little Q&A box. And you can upvote the ones that you think are interesting, and I'll try and get to as many as I can. So what do I think the job prospects are after just a medical science degree with no further study? So what type of jobs would be available after 3 years? So obviously, I think a lot of people think that, you know, getting involved with science means that you would have to undertake an honors or a master's or a PhD to really get into it. But there are lots of job options out there for you if you just want to do your 3-year bachelor. Some from the top of my head involve things like you could go into hospital, being a hospital scientist. You could work for a path lab, performing diagnostics. These things are really important right now, especially with COVID. A lot of people that I know are working in COVID labs, and they're not typically working in virology, but there's a really large need, so there's lots of options there. What was the process of applying for an internship like, and was it something you had to do on your own, or does UTS assist you? I did this. I found that my researcher on my own purely by looking through. UTS has a, this gets published every year, a list of honors projects, people, researchers that are looking for students, and it tells you a little bit about what they study and what their current research options in their lab are. So what I did is I just read through lots of them at the beginning of the year, and then I emailed lots and lots of people. And what I think is really important is you go in and you have a chat to them, and you see, you have to see if you guys get along. There's nothing worse than, I guess, spending 8 weeks with someone where your interests don't really align, and you feel stuck. So I definitely recommend doing an internship, though. I think it's been super, super valuable for me. Can medical science lead to medicine pathways? The answer is yes and no. There is no straight progression into medicine from a medical science degree, and I think that's true for most universities. Around Australia, everyone that wants to do postgraduate medicine or dentistry has to sit the GAMSAT, and depending on the university, they take a couple of different things into account, and they weigh different things different ways. So for example, a university might take your GPA or your weighted average mark from university, and then they would also consider your GAMSAT score. And section 3 in the GAMSAT is notoriously difficult, and I think that's especially where medical science can help you out, because in medical science you don't just learn about anatomy, you also do a lot of biology, chemistry, and physics, and all of these things are involved in the section 3 part of the GAMSAT. So having a working knowledge of what you're getting yourself into, I think is really important before starting to study for the GAMSAT. So JR has asked what was my favorite part about studying science at UTS instead of other universities. What I really like about UTS is that it's really practical and it's really hands-on. And I think what I really like about it is that there are so many placement and research opportunities as an undergraduate. And I think that's quite rare. I'm not really sure. I can't really speak for other universities because I'm not quite sure how they structure these things. But I would definitely say that that's something that UTS does really well. And I definitely feel more prepared to enter the workforce than if I hadn't done these things. So Annabelle has asked, are there opportunities to study parts of medical science, for example, the reproductive system or the endocrine system? Yes, and also no again. So I think what has become most obvious to me when as I've progressed through my university career is how inextricably linked that all of these systems are. So you may have a specific focus in something. And so, for example, one of the bachelors at UTS focuses quite a lot on infection and immunity. But what's really evident now is that all of the systems in the human body affect every other one. So, for example, what you eat can and your your normal gut flora and fauna affects your general health, and this is the same for your endocrine system, especially because it's and reproductive. Those two really tie hand in hand because there's a really big emphasis on hormonal control, and I think it's really important to be able to understand all of these things and also do chemistry and biology to understand the molecular basis of what you're looking at as well. So I've been asked what were my year 12 subjects. I did advanced extension 1 and extension 2 English. I did biology. I also did general mathematics and modern history. It's not that long ago, but I just can't remember. I'm not sure what I want to do when I'm older, but med is an option if I get the ATAR for it. But what if I don't? I assume you're saying, what do you do if you don't get the ATAR for medicine? And the reality is to get into medicine as an undergraduate is extremely hard. There are not many places anywhere in Australia. And a lot of people try to get into medicine for a very long time and feel really disheartened. But I think you can give yourself the best chance of getting into medicine by doing a medical science degree first, because even if you you go to med school, and then in your first year you'll have to learn a lot of the stuff that you learn when you're doing a medical science degree regardless. So there's really no loss to be had from that, and I would say definitely don't despair. Medicine is extremely hard to get into, and a good thing about doing a bachelor degree before going straight into medicine is you don't put all your eggs in one basket, and you really have the opportunity to expose yourself to a lot of different scientific aspects. So I've been asked if I have any study tips. That different things work for different people. I personally write all of my notes out by hand. I think for science this is really helpful. I used to write them. I used to write notes on my laptop, as most people do. But I found that definitely my understanding of concepts and my you're able to write down formulas, you're able to draw structures of different molecules and different parts of the human body, and it really helps your understanding of the concept that you're doing. And I definitely think that I can see a positive correlation between when I started writing all my notes out by hand and then my marks getting better. Does UTS offer any early entry from preliminary results? This is a great question that I don't completely have the answer to. So I would probably talk to science.futures@uts.edu.au, send them an email. Otherwise, we have an open day coming up on the 28th, and there will be definitely someone there that can answer all of these questions for you. I just want to clarify, so a degree holds different subjects that you can take and it changes every year and you can choose which ones you want to do. Yes, so my major, which is a flexible major, everyone does the same 8 subjects at the within their first year. So you do introductory physics and you do organic and physical chemistry, you do anatomy, cell biology, statistics, and I think there's something else. You do biocomplexity as well. So everyone will do those. And then if you're in a structured degree, there will be subjects that you need to take in order for you to fulfill the requirements for graduation. Otherwise, if you do a flexible degree, you have a big list of subjects that say, level 2 and level 3, and then you can choose from those. But also, if it changes every year, like new courses sometimes get added and sometimes courses not offered that year. It's really dependent on what I think, well, you need the academics to be able to teach them and what the requirements of the university are right now. But yes, it does hold different subjects. And if you do a flexible major, you're able to choose subjects across a range of disciplines as well, which I think has been, which is really interesting. I personally didn't do that. I just did medical science because I kind of always knew what I wanted to do. So yes. Alyssa has asked, will biochem or physics be more useful for medical science? Look, they're all really necessary. I definitely think that doing biology in high school helped me. In my HSC really helps me get a really good foundational knowledge of what I would need to do at UTS. However, it's definitely a regret of mine not doing chemistry. It was quite a shock, but there are heaps. Even if you only do one of those, there are programs at UTS and at most universities that can help you, learn the introductory science or mathematics that you may not have done in high school. Let's choose one that's different. What is the difference between medical science and Doctor of Medicine? So Doctor of Medicine means that you can practice medicine and I guess like you treat patients, you can go into a range of different specialties, whereas medical science is more science-based and your options are really, I gave a list of possible career choices earlier, but to be a doctor, it's more practically based, and you would become a treating doctor as a GP would be, or a surgeon. What made me want to pursue medical science? Honestly, popular culture. I read a lot growing up. I watched a lot of TV. I really liked Bones. And I really was fascinated in like the mystery and the science behind that TV show. And that's something that attracts me to science. Overall, is I really like the investigative nature of it. I have time for one more question. So it sounds as though science communication is important. Are you interested in a career in media? It's really, really important. I don't think that for me, I will specifically go into a career in media. However, I think a lot of, especially at the moment, scientists are always at the forefront of the media. So being able to speak clearly and communicate good ideas is not just a skill for people that want to go into policy and journalism and politics and other situations where you may need to stand in front of a camera and talk for a while, but it's really important for everyone, and it really helps communication skills. And I think that's another thing that university has taught me, is that everyone's always you have to do a lot of group work and a lot of presentation work, and I was very, very shy, but over time you get more exposure to different I guess assessments, and you become a lot it becomes a lot easier to be able to do all of these skills. And I think that's all we have time for today. So thanks for joining us. A recording of this talk will be sent to everyone who registered for the event, and it'll also be available on our website at the little URL below. And we also have an open day coming up on the 28th and the 31st of August. So you can go to this UTS Future Students page, and you can register for that. And there's more course info than I could provide today for you if you're really interested in having a look. Anyway, thank you so much for coming today.